Mayor Gorton, we've gotten the chance to speak before, and as always, just want to thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk with me and
Thank
share
you.
so much of the issues that are so important to voters right now.
Thank you.
So let's start with a very general question.
Okay.
I want to know, you've been in public service for a very long time. You've been at it campaigning for reelection, so your goals are already set more or less, but explain to voters who may not really understand, why do you want to be mayor again?
Well, that's a great question. I'm so people focused that this is the perfect job for me, believe it or not, even after the pandemic. And I really feel there's still a good bit to do. And it's become a passion for me because I think I'm built for this. It really is a great fit. Being a nurse first, having a full career there, and understanding how to kind of triage issues and develop action plans. It's what nurses do. So I'm still excited about it, have a lot of energy to pursue the issues that we still want to, take another whack at or continue to build up. So I'm really excited about doing this again.
So let's go ahead and hit the big issue that is come up continuously throughout this campaign, which is the recurring issue of crime.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an easy challenge to solve by any means, but you and your opponent have different methodologies in terms of accomplishing it. You revealed a bit of your One Lexington strategic plan was announced last week.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me a bit about that and how it has been effective in reducing crime here in the city. But as a follow-up to that, whenever I interviewed your opponent and got his response to it, he believes that there is a piece missing when it comes to enforcement and how our police are involved in reducing crime. How do you respond to that?
Well, for a couple or maybe 3 decades now, Lexington's been very focused on community policing, and we've had our neighborhood resource officers, and so that is kind of built into our system here because it works. Police who know the people who live in the neighborhoods, the businesses there, the crime patterns. So we have built on that with One Lexington, which is really a community violence intervention approach. And it's an approach that works with people in the community, partnerships. We are very focused on those partnerships, which really have enabled us to do a lot of different things. You mentioned the strategic plan. This is the first time Lexington, the city, has had a strategic plan that really addresses youth violence. And we believe that youth violence is one of the most important places to start, which we've been doing for about a year or so. And what we have found in they use a system that is prevention, intervention, 2 different things, enforcement and reentry. So those are the 4 pieces that they use. They've built this with Cities United, which is known all over the country for their work with cities. And this first year of working on our plan, we have seen a dramatic decrease in youth gun homicides, that very specific piece. This is ages 13 to 29 that One Lexington works with. Some are youth, some are young adults, I guess we would qualify them that way. And it's a 50% drop. This is the actual number in the drop in youth gun homicides. That's dramatic. That's what we're going for. So with the youth, we're focusing a lot on those, we hear all the time about root causes. Many of our youth who are involved in violence have no father in the home. Many of our youth have no focus in terms of what they want to be doing. And they need mentors, they need people who will help them mediate, and so that their disagreements don't go further and escalate. This is all good work that's being done, and we're starting to see this change in our community. So this is a great thing. And having a strategic plan, you know, you can't really go anywhere without a good strategic plan, no matter whether it's business or crime or whatever. So we're pretty in tune and excited about this work we're doing and have done with Cities United.
What approach is the city taking, or have y'all begun to strategize about in terms of reducing violence among folks that are outside of that age group, 30 or older? We've had a number of domestic violence incidents here in the city, and you've talked about that before, that's not necessarily something that the police could have stopped from happening. Is there other programs or things like that that the city could look at investing in that could help solve that problem?
Well, our domestic violence homicides rose dramatically. This time last year in 2021, we had 0. And we have 12 now. It's an unbelievable increase, and it's being seen across the country. These are usually homicides that happen inside someone's home. And that's why we have said they're difficult for the police to prevent. Now, what we're doing is this summer earlier, we had some major discussions about how to address this, because this is a big community effort and a big community issue. So what I've done is put together this coalition of people, all of whom work mostly in nonprofits or other entities to decrease domestic violence. But we've pulled them together so that they're actually meeting together to solve on a bigger level this community issue. So they're about ready to roll out phase 1 of our plan going forward. It's a multi-phased effort. And this plan has received just a lot of work by professionals in the field, as well as people who've experienced domestic violence. And so we're going about it this way. We have police in the group, but it's mainly focused on entities who deal with this all the time. The Greenhouse 17s, those kind of folks. So this is our new focus, and we're very interested in how it will work because it's about community. It's about lots of people attending to this. And the domestic violence issue is so different, and it usually affects women and children. The statistics hold that up. And so we're determined to go about it in a community fashion. So you'll see coming rolled out in the next week or two the phase 1 of our new program.
What do you do whenever someone asks you, or what do you say rather whenever someone asks you, is our city safe?
Our city is safe. We have statistics to show that. Now, it's very disturbing. Any homicide we have is disturbing. And we know right now we've had 1 more than this time last year. And so, it would be wonderful if we could get to 0. So what I tell people is a few specific things. Downtown. People ask about downtown all the time, and we have a larger number of police focused downtown than we ever have had. We have specifically looked at the Short Street, Tandy Park, that kind of business area. We know that a lot of the bars closed on Winchester Road, and they're fairly centered in one place downtown. So we have worked with the businesses there, the bar owners, the club owners. About a year ago, I stood up my downtown safety work group, which is headed by Dougie Allen, and it is made up of police and lots of business owners. And we've put more lights there because we know that when things are lit up, they tend to be more safe. as I mentioned, we have a lot more police presence down there. So we've worked really in tandem with the businesses there. My husband and I go downtown at night all the time, either to eat or enjoy the Kentucky Theater or, you know, whatever's going on. And I think that if people realize, and Chief Weathers will tell you this, based on the statistics, most of our homicides are two people who know each other. They have a previous relationship. These are not random street crimes. And, you know, that's important for people to understand. In the overall picture, compared with the nation and compared with last year, our violent crime, which is assault, rape, arson, homicides, it's a big group of things, is down 2%. I look at those numbers every month with the police. So here in Lexington, that violent crime category is inching downward. You know, the devil's in the details, Bodie. You have to understand that one big broad brush with crime is not telling the true story. So we're working on all this with good plans. You mentioned earlier about the approach. My opponent, and you mentioned my opponent's approach, the GVI, which lots of people have heard about. We had great concerns about it because the way it works is it does call-ins of people who were involved or believed to be involved in violent crime. Plus it brings in all their buddies that they've been hanging around with. And when we met with NAACP, the ACLU, the Human Rights Commission in the beginning and asked them about this, they had a major concern, which we also had, which was a disparate effect on our minority communities. We believe it would have a negative effect on their relationship with community, with law enforcement, and with others, because it really puts them in the focus. So many people know GVI is an old system, and although my opponent disagrees with this, we've looked at the facts across the country and talked with many people in cities that have stopped using it because their homicides were going up while they were using it. So you got to get into the detail of all this stuff to really understand the true impact.
One aspect also to reducing crime is, of course, our public safety. And Lexington is not alone in terms of officer shortages. Mm-hmm. And I know you have spoken about recruitment efforts that are ongoing. Yes. What have you found to really be at the root of the problem when it comes to what is driving officer shortages? Is it lack of interest? Is it pay, competitiveness? What are you seeing and how do we solve that?
It's several things that are driving this shortage, and I think they're pretty much the same across the country. One is money and pay, but that's not all. And of course, we've done a lot to give supplement pay to them, to raise their base salary through collective bargaining. And tomorrow, the council's going to see a proposal I'm making to raise base pay again. And so money's important. You know, enjoyment of the job is high. Of course, that's true with any job, right? You've got to enjoy it. And in the last couple of years, we've seen some of the public really come down hard on our public safety folks. And they have not felt appreciated by some people in the public. And that's kind of a change, a shift. We have had to have a lot of our officers working overtime because of the shortage. Right now we're 89 short, and that's difficult for families. So we have put a lot into recruitment, we've put a lot into retention efforts, and we are continuing that, as well as putting a lot into having recruit classes. You know, in the days when we had full strength or nearly full strength, we would have maybe one recruit class a year. Now we're trying to have two, and our next one will probably start in January. And across the country, we've seen that people are not wanting to be in public safety as much as they used to. So it's kind of a multifaceted kind of thing.
Let's move on to another topic,
Okay.
and that being keeping Lexington affordable. Affordable housing has been another big issue across this campaign. And there's multiple sides of this. Very recently, you had a group, I believe, called KY Tenants or Kentucky Tenants.
Yes.
They actually came and I believe protested at a council meeting. They're wanting something like a tenant's bill of rights. And I've also seen stories of where landlords or property management groups buying housing in poorer parts of the city and then not allowing folks with Section 8. Would you support any sort of statute or policy when it comes to not discriminating against certain tenants?
Yes, I'm very interested. You know, there are different tenants' bills of rights, so we have to see what we want in this one. But I think it's a great idea to look at it and see what would work here in Lexington, because now that this article's come out about the landlords who are buying up, in some cases, hundreds of properties and raising the rent, it's very concerning that the tenants won't be able to afford these rentals that are being renovated and upgraded and then turned and put back on the market as rentals at higher rent rates. And so it's very concerning to me. And we have done a lot in the last 4 years, really, if you go back since 2014 with the Affordable Housing Fund. It's a big deal for a city to have a fund that goes toward affordable housing. It's either rentals, rehabbing rentals, or building new apartments, or rehabbing single-family homes. And our city has helped with about 3,000 of those since that time that we approved it. And we have leveraged a lot of money. That's how it works with affordable housing, is you have developers who want to be in it, and there's just a handful of them, not a lot, but a handful, because it's really difficult work. And so they leverage other kinds of money in order to make these units affordable. And it's been greatly successful. So we were able to, I recommended, and the council voted to put $10 million into that from the ARPA money, the American Rescue Funds. This is a big deal for our community, and it's helping. We just got to keep it going, right? So.
As an extension to that, property owners, also pay taxes. Would you support raising taxes for folks over the next 4 years?
I have been reading a lot about how people are suffering right now from inflation, and you saw that the mortgage rates just went up. It is a very tough time for people, and I think it's a particularly difficult time for people to suggest increasing taxes. People are barely able to pay the gas for their car or their bus fee if they ride the bus, pay a mortgage or rent whichever they had, put food on the table, buy their kids what they need for school. I mean, it's very difficult right now. So to my way of thinking, this is not a time to raise taxes. Now, that is one of the council's main jobs, other than, taking my budget and making it theirs, is to craft the tax rates. They do that every year. And I think it's not the time for that.
How would you rate how the city has tackled homelessness?
We've put a lot of resources into it. Our big, huge win is that in 2019, my first year as mayor, we were able to announce that we've essentially ended veteran homelessness. That's a piece of our homeless population. The way we've done it is when we find someone who's homeless, who's a veteran, we put them immediately into shelter, and then we have a whole series of work with the federal partners, the VA, and others who offer services. So that piece is our model for our homeless. Now, I've seen the numbers. We do an annual count for our homeless, and back in about 2013 or 14, when we started our homeless program here, we had around 12 to 1,300 homeless people here. And we know that during the pandemic, some other communities brought homeless people here because we were known as a city that serves the homeless. With our most recent count in February of this year, we usually count when it's really cold because most homeless people go into shelter. We had about 700. So our numbers have gradually gone down. They're not low enough yet. And we continue to work hard on our continuum of care, which is a group of churches, nonprofits, places like Catholic Action Center, Hope Center, who work year-round to house these folks, either in emergency housing or temporary housing. And we've really built that up, that group of people who are in the housing business for our homeless. We know we have a lot of folks who feed our homeless. And so the real challenge is getting them into the services, because you can't force a homeless person to go into shelter, to receive mental health care, to receive care for addiction. We have no power to force that. So our folks who work on this every day, including our homeless officer in government, they work through a system of working with partners to convince people that maybe we can help them through the resource process. So we're having some good success, and I think the VA model is a great one, to follow. And the resource piece is really important.
When it comes to our economic growth, and we were talking about taxes just a little bit earlier and circling back to that, how do we as a city continue to build out our growth? I know we have a soccer team that wants to put a stadium somewhere, but also when it comes to maintaining certain businesses, not very far from here, there was a arcade type restaurant that shut down after only 6 months of operation. That particular location has struggled to keep a business there.
Yes.
How do we solve those types of economic problems?
The economic issues are complicated, believe it or not. Most of them are private businesses. So you get into the discussion of what does government do and how can government help our economy without horning in on a private business. And that the one that you mentioned, private property, private business, the people who live here, they kind of determine what business will thrive and what business won't. And a great example of that is our restaurant industry here. We have a very healthy one, which we all love. All the time, whether it's pandemic or not pandemic, there are restaurants that go out of business after a year because their model didn't work. So we do quite a few things to help our economy here. One of them is we have our WorkLex, and we also partner with other workforce development entities because we know there are a lot of people who still need work skills, how to write a resume, how to do an interview, how to apply for those jobs and get those jobs that you're skilled for. So we work a lot on that. We work with Commerce Lexington. We also have our Jobs Fund, where businesses who want to come here or who are here but want to expand their jobs can apply for our forgivable loans or our loans. And they have to agree to bring a certain number of jobs here. So we have that partnership. We have our new property that we've taken possession of out at Coldstream, which is 200 acres of economic development land. We have done our master plan for it, and now we have gained money to do some of the infrastructure there. It's it's virgin land, which had a farm on it, the UK experimental farm. And so we're really excited about that, bringing jobs in there. And so we have all these different kind of pieces and parts going on. Now, to your little bit of your question about developing out, I'm a big proponent of filling in the properties we have left inside the boundary, because that will help us continue to be vibrant and a busy place that's got lots of businesses, lots of people living here, lots of restaurants, whatever, it's a wide variety of things. So our growth boundary has been in place since 1958. It's been very successful at helping us not sprawl like so many cities do. It's expensive to sprawl out because the city usually has to pay attention to the infrastructure, right? The sewage treatment plants, all of those kinds of things. Curbs, gutters, stormwater. And so I'm really, really looking forward to the day that we're filled in and we don't have land for development, because then it'll be time to look at we've got some data points, commercial, retail, housing, that will tell us when we need more land for those particular things. And that'll be the time when the Planning Commission considers growing out. And, healthy cities grow. They don't stay stagnant. But we're very lucky that since 1958 we've been very intentional about our growth. And by the way, we need soccer here. I know that the Lexington Sporting Club took the stadium off the table temporarily. They're kind of working through what they want to do. Their fields are already being built out Athens Boonesboro, which is a good thing. And so we're really excited about having them here. And tons of people here love soccer. They play soccer. Their kids play soccer. I was a soccer coach for my daughter when she was under 12. And it's a good thing. It's another piece to our puzzle. So we're really looking forward to it.
Now, I want to move to some more generalized questions.
Okay.
This is, of course, a nonpartisan race, and that's a unique part of our government structure that a lot of people really like. But you have publicly identified yourself as a Republican. So I'm curious, how does your party affiliation inform or affect any of your decision-making as mayor?
I think other people publicly identified me. If you look back at the record, I have always worked from a nonpartisan position, because when I think about all the things we do for people, none of them are partisan. Whether it's filling potholes or emptying your garbage or maintaining your stormwater or your sanitary sewer, none of it's partisan. So I've never, ever spoken about being partisan. Other people have spoken about it because I think they think it will help them, but it usually doesn't. People in Lexington like nonpartisan elected officials. And it was one of the greatest gifts that our founders gave us when they wrote our charter back during merger. And partisan politics doesn't help here for elected officials. I'll just say that out. It really, it leads people to go to caucusing and, well, should I do this because my party thinks it's the right thing? I don't believe in that for our local government. It's not set up that way. So people respect that. They don't like it when candidates identify their partisanship, which luckily I've never done. So I think I'm in good shape there. I'm totally nonpartisan.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Now, without, thumbing the scale any one direction anyway, there is a possible scenario here where you win this race and have to go on to work with Councilman Kloiber in the future. Beyond this race, what does that relationship look like?
He would have to run again, right?
I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, he's given up.
After this,
he has given up his seat on the council by running for mayor in Lexington. the charter only allows you to run, and probably KRS too, for one seat at a time. And so in the near future, he would not be on the council. He could certainly come back, you know, in a couple of years and run. I always try to be respectful of everyone who's on that council. And certainly over the years, as a council member or as the mayor, I've had disagreements with some of them on issues, but I think that I have a record of being respectful, and you know, I try to uphold that because it's all about serving for the people. So if he comes back in 2 years and I would still be the mayor, I would work with him.
Any other closing thoughts you want to add as we wrap up here today?
I would just say that you know, I have a great deal of experience. And at this time in our lives being the public's lives, I think for any elected official, experience is critical. We saw in the pandemic how that played out. And my experience really helped me get us through that, through racial unrest and reform. And, you know, people want experience in this seat, the chief executive of the second largest city in Kentucky. So I'm really excited about doing it again and appreciate the interview.